Our Emirati trails were not all about Dubai. We had frequently left the city for places like Sharjah and Al Ain. Now we were off to the capital city, Abu Dhabi. The journey was roughly an hour and a half along the arterial road that runs along the Emirati coastline, the E11.
Do take a moment to like, share, and subscribe. We would love it. Thanks.
After a breezy ride, we were knocking on Abu Dhabi's doors. We scouted for food joints on the super app Kareem and found something very close to home, Kumbakonam Cafe. We had lunch along with a hot cup of filter coffee, which tasted authentic to me. We were put up in City Seasons Al Hamra Hotel in a central neighborhood of Abu Dhabi, Al Dana. With fuel in our gut, we were ready to see Abu Dhabi. The city is essentially an archipelago, and this island cluster topography actually makes it more interesting than Dubai's coastline hugger.
Our first stop would take us to the western periphery looking out into the Persian Gulf. Our target was the presidential palace, Qasr al Watan. The Qasr al Watan is the Abu Dhabi equivalent of Zabil Palace in Dubai in one sense, in that it is also used for political meetings and diplomatic receptions. However, it differs in that it is not a residential space, which meant that visitors were allowed to explore. For starters, we had to board a bus which took us to within a stone's throw of the palace. If you're wondering, that's not the palace. That was merely a random gorgeous structure on the perimeter with an archway through which our bus would pass. On cue, fancy fountains showed up. Once we got off, we could take in the facade, and what a thing it was! A pristine mass of white domes with finials and Islamic pointed arches. Initially, the defining attribute proved elusive. As we walked towards the entrance, it gradually loomed on us. Scale. This was designed to be a statement. Imagine representing your country and walking through a doorway like this. We had seen a more austere palace residence in Al Ain, the Qasr al one that symbolized the formative years of the Emirates and had reflected an unforgiving life in the desert. Qasr al Watan was more a symbol of the modern Emirates, rich beyond measure from oil money. I am not sure if I have ever been as stunned by the amount of ornamentation as I was with this. European palaces like the Versailles are monuments to Baroque excess, but this was a modern example to go toe to toe with any of them. In any Islamic structure, geometric patterns are a given, as the Quran forbids the depiction of humans. My mind was transported to Jacob Bronowski's evocative description of the geometric motifs in the Alhambra in his magnificent episode, The Music of the Spheres, in his series, The Ascent of Man.
The Great Hall did its best to stupefy us into a guilt induced daze. But thankfully, the palace had other sections to explore, like the mementos they received from different leaders, such as a carpet from Turkmenistan or this unusually minimalist vase from India.
But the most haunting object for me was this key to Gaza from the state of Palestine. Whatever it symbolized, it needed to be in the hands of the people of Gaza. Instead, it was here in a gilded palace.
The next section was the more euphemistically titled Spirit of Collaboration. This was where the Federal Supreme Council of the Emirates met. It was also where the heads of the Arab League and the Gulf Cooperation Council met. Enough said. And we were back to the great hall where we continued to gape at the enormity of the place. Or work the angles into photographs, like I was attempting to do here. This had been a quintessential modern Emirati experience, spectacle as form, function, and meaning. Outside, we got a view of the distinctively shaped Etihad Towers, the tallest in Abu Dhabi. It offers an observation deck on the 74th floor at about 300 meters, but we opted out.
Next on our agenda was the BAPS Hindu Mandir, inaugurated just a year ago in 2024. This was also the first logistical misstep of our trip. The temple is located well outside Abu Dhabi and en route to Dubai. So, for anyone journeying from Dubai, it actually makes sense to visit the temple before entering Abu Dhabi. We ended up going back another 40 minutes and then coming back the same distance, so this added an hour and a half to our day. What this did though was ensure that we visited the temple around the sunset hour, which turned out to be a fortuitous turn of the dice. A Saturday evening slot meant a long queue and a strict security apparatus, which took us about 30 to 40 minutes to navigate. In North Indian temple architecture, the term Shikhara is used to refer to the tower above the Garbhagriha, which is a term that means the abode of the womb and refers to the sanctum sanctorum.
Pink sandstone from Rajasthan had been used to make these shikaras, and it reflected in the faintly light brownish pink hues that we see here. The intricate carvings and sculptures reflected various deities, themes, and scenes from different sects of the Hindu faith system. When the lights came on in the evening, the facade was handsome to behold. The whole place, in fact, came alive with the mildest of touches, like a lit diya or lamp. This project had made headlines in many ways, and that made us curious to see if there were any Emirati influences. We saw two: the palm trees and oud in the shoe house. Rare, if not outright unique, I felt. We reflected on how this had been a very unique experience in the Emirates. Even something simple as the sound of a temple bell evoked a world of sensory detail that felt familiar through lived experience, but unfamiliar by virtue of where we were. If this heralded the beginning of the Emirates embarking on a syncretic path, it was a meaningful statement.
Day 9 of our Emirates trip began with us bidding adieu to our uncle Sriram and our aunt Pushpa. Growing up, my uncle had been a major influence on my passion for travel, and I guess I have inherited an obsession for travel planning from him. Their travel pursuits have left a footprint across the world. You can view their experiences in countries like Vietnam, Kazakhstan, and Uzbekistan on their YouTube channel, Two Romads. After they had returned to Dubai, we chose to visit Sadiyat Island. Headlined by the world's most famous name in art and cultural exhibits, the Louvre. We had expected great design, but we weren't prepared to be immersed in it. The collection would make us muse about the journey of human civilization as reflected in the arts. No student of cultural history could have asked for more. Do watch our detailed video on the Louvre Abu Dhabi.
Next, we jaunted off to Sheikh Zayed Grand Mosque, which used to be the prime reason for people to make a day trip to Abu Dhabi from Dubai. We had a pristine white vision in front of us, but the approach required us to enter a dome diametrically opposite to it. Beneath it was a veritable mall where we got an abaya burqa combined for me. Women who are fully covered shoulder to wrist and head to ankle can skip this. In addition to the clothing custom, we were required to adhere to the navigational custom next. The Emirates make such a habit out of glamorous pathways that would lead to the place of interest that Jay was inclined to call it glambulating. When you reach the destination, it's like why bother if the endpoint is a statement like the framing of the domes through the pond shaped archway. These places want to have you at hello, but they invariably have you at full stop.
I mean, we were looking at elegance manifested as architecture. I guess the marble white dome is a bit of a cheat code, but in combination with the minarets, the vast common space that is a hallmark of the mosque, and the golden archways with the evening sky peering down, this made for a glorious sight worth committing to memory. Another inspired touch on the columns, palm shaped capitals. It also dawned on me that the columns were probably a leaf out of the Cordoba Mezquita, the Spanish place that is both a mosque and a cathedral. The twining leaves motif was the visible thread that stitched this tapestry together, but only until the next glittering piece showed up. Soon, it became a case of too much, as the glitter and glam kept coming. Like a Persian carpet that covered the entirety of the space, but was still not the primary object of attention because of yet another glitzy chandelier. Every once in a while, an object that combined utility with elegant design came across as a relief. Like this clock that showed the 5 prayer times in a day obligated by the Quran: the Fajr before sunrise, the Zuhr at midday, the Asr in the afternoon, the Maghrib immediately after sunset, and Isha at night. When we were outdoors again, the marble white had acquired an otherworldly bluish glow. With that image and a sensory arc that had gone from elegant to overload back to elegant again, we left. From our taxi, the last sight of the mosque was a fitting coda. A tip for anyone who's interested: Abu Dhabi has tourist buses that operate designated routes with timings marked on boards at designated stops, one of which was the hotel we stayed at, City Seasons Alhambra.
Finally, it was day 10 and the last day of our Emirates trip. We laid the capstone on Jubail Island, adjoining Sadiat Island. We were at Jubail Mangrove Park near the coastline. By now, we were well past early summer, so our morning threshold for outdoors stopped as early as 8:30. Anything beyond that was uncomfortably hot, so we made the most of the hour and a half we had. This was a system of wooden walkways that allowed visitors to explore a marine mangrove ecosystem. The world over, authorities have gradually realized the value of mangrove parks. India itself has a few in Goa, Karnataka, and the Andaman Islands, with one or two set to come up in Mumbai as of 2025. Walking on these planks and simply being in this environment is pleasurable in itself. But the part of us that loved birding was continuously on the lookout for a sighting. We had a clean sighting of the western reef heron, a bird that frequents coastal wetlands. They were here to feast on the crustaceans like the crabs that crawl this quagmire. The trails led back to the entry point in a little over an hour, and we were out. In winters, there might be more on offer for birdwatchers here, and the trails could be a more immersive experience. And that was it. Our Emirates trip was over. We were catching an Etihad flight back to Mumbai that afternoon at the superb Abu Dhabi International Airport. Fittingly, we finished with a cuppa at a cafe named Majlis, the enduring capsule of Arab and Emirati culture.